I guess we'll call the open meeting to order. This item comes before the board. So the background here, the annual disclosure law authorizes the board to impose fines on filers who fail to submit their report on time. And staff's proposing that the board adopt a board rule to codify the board's practice for imposing fines on late filers. The goal in these rules as drafted is to provide a clear fine schedule to filers, and also to ensure that there is an appropriate due process available for filers who wish to dispute their fines. With that, open it up to questions, thoughts, comments.
The practice that is reflected in the rule is the one that you've been following for
the practice reflected in the rule is a slight modification on what we've been done for this past year. But over the past 30 years, the board has been imposing fines, generally starting at the general practice over the years has been starting the fine at $250 for late filers, then increasing that depending on how late they filed or if they filed late before, based on the factors that is outlined in the admin code. Those are the factors the annual disclosure law contemplates that the board will take into consideration, how late they filed and whether they filed late before. So we kind of built on those two factors in setting out a clear fine schedule here, where it would be $250 if you are late within 30 days after the deadline, but increasing by $250 for every additional 30 days after that, and an additional $250 depending on if you were late in the prior 6 years.
And the due process is just an appeal to the board, not just, is an appeal to the board.
Right. The due process would permit, so the procedures would permit any filer who wishes to dispute their late fine to submit in writing to the board an explanation for why they think the fine shouldn't apply to them or why it should be lower. And the board would then take that into consideration before deciding whether and if to find a violation and impose a fine.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, seems pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we just need a motion to adopt the rules as written, sounds like.
So moved.
And then,
Second?
okay. And then with those rules adopted, we will proceed to present them to the law department and the mayor's office of operation. Oh, you have to vote. So a vote on
All those
the
in
motion
favor?
to.
Aye.
Thank you, Chris.
Who in the mayor's office or what
and-
department in the city, in the corporate council do we deal with directly?
At the law department?
Yeah.
Chris
That would be the legal
does.
counsel division, I believe, for the rulemaking. So they're submitted to the mayor's office of operations as well as the law department, the legal counsel division for their review. It will come back to the board with any changes, and then from there the board would allow the rule to, should the board agree with the changes that any changes that are made, that would then go to the board for approval and proceeding to a public hearing where the public is allowed to comment, and then once those comments are incorporated, it will come back to the board for final adoption.
And what's the name of the person at this corp council that we deal with? Do we know? Or is it just the general department?
It
I
would-
mean, the
The
general.
person who we've usually dealt with has retired, so
Oh,
we'll find that
New
out
person.
when we.
Got it.
We reach out.
Got it, okay.